the way they look at rules, why they break rules, who you are as a parent, how the family environment is, and how a lot of the influences around the child are. These are about a child's safety. They are not about controlling or suppressing or punishing the child. Boundaries, rules, and structures, they have to be healthy. You have to teach the child how to be purposeful with life. With a child who's about 6 years, you may want to teach the child what is safe and unsafe in its environment itself, physical environment. Whereas we as elders have this demandingness of children that children must follow. How will they? Their brain is not structured like that. That's why you need to help them understand priority, help them understand time, work in an age-appropriate way to teach safe versus unsafe, work in an age-appropriate way to understand helpful versus not helpful. It's a construct from transactional analysis where we say that because of the way we are feeling on the inside of us, we may tend to take up either a victim role or a prosecutor role. And we as adults also tend to get into the victim, prosecutor, or rescuer child. And you know what? Once you are in that place, you will just keep on circulating. The decisions that we could make in our life could be any. And these are often decisions or script decisions which will govern the way our personality itself. And these injunctions can go and have a big hurting impact. And when a child hears them again and again and again, it can make early script decisions saying, I am no good, I don't have to be like this, I have to be like this. Negative messages or unrealistic positive messages, those could be leading to certain script decisions. Hello parents, and welcome back to Parent Shift. Let me spend some time today to talk to you about children, boundaries, the way they look at rules, why they break rules, etc. Because I'm constantly getting a lot of questions where some of you have asked, why does my child not listen? Why in social settings or at times of parties or when we are out in the mall, the child behaves erratically? Why does the child disturb other children in school? I'm getting complaints. There are certain words and language that the child is using which the child is not supposed to do, etc. Much of this, parents, is really boundary problems. But let me just simplify this for you. Who you are as a parent, how the family environment is, and how a lot of the influences around the child are constantly teaching the child how to be. It is teaching the child's identity, the concept of safety or the lack of it, the concept of emotional and mental regulation or the lack of it, the concept of self-worth or the lack of it. Fundamentally, if your child is showing some negative behaviors, it is coming from one or more of these places. And all of those are coming from you, your parenting, and the environmental stimuli that the child is receiving. So if you find that the child is too shy and doesn't speak up, there is something about the way you are parenting and its environment is. If the child is too aggressive, then there is something about the child's feeling of about its safety, about the way it feels controlled or suppressed, that's causing it. If the child is constantly on an emotional edge, especially your teenager, then there is something about the way it has not been taught about emotional regulation that is feeding into that behavior. So what I keep saying, parenting is not an easy task. It's a 24/7 job, and you'll have to keep doing it all the way to, let's say, 25, 30 years of your child's life in different ways. Age appropriate parenting is something that you'll have to learn and work with. Now let's come back to what we're talking about. When we talk about boundaries, when we talk about rules, when we talk about structure, and I'll use those three words interchangeably, boundaries, rules, and structures. These are about a child's safety. They are not about controlling or suppressing or punishing the child. Many people today feel, I was suppressed as a child, so I should not suppress my child. Let my child have total freedom, etc. And what then happens is that the child is learning unregulated behaviors. On the other hand, there are people who say, I was brought up in complete strictness of the hostel or my home. My father was very strict, or mom was very strict, or grandfather was very strict. I also need to do the same thing with my child. You suppress the child so much that the child starts rebelling. All of these can be punishment. Boundaries, rules, and structures, they have to be healthy. They have to be modulated in such a way that the child naturally learns what are the safe limits to live my life. How do I need to think safely and respectfully? How do I need to behave safely and respectfully? How do I model on certain things which can take my life forward? Fundamentally, you have to teach the child how to be purposeful with life, how to be willfully engaging with life, how to respectfully live while having fun and maintaining some of its childlike behaviors. So, in a way, what you're teaching the child are integrated adult behaviors or integrating adult behaviors where it uses its parental instructions, etc. It uses its own nature and then creates a way of behaving in a certain balanced fashion. Small children, especially up until the age group of about 10 to 12, do not have the rock solid intellectual maturity that is required to decide upon these kind of behaviors. Then in the age group of 10 to 12 all the way to 17, 18, they have some ability but they don't have full abilities. This is where a parent plays a big role. A child's boundaries, a child's adherence to structure, a child's adherence to rules are only going to be as strong as the parent's emotional stability and the stability of the parent's parenting style. When a child feels safe, when a child feels respected, when a child feels nurtured and cared to, boundaries will come naturally. But when a child feels scared, or it feels confused, or it feels that it's not being heard, or it's not being seen, then it finds boundaries or following structures or following rules very unnatural, very impossible. And what you're seeing is not bad behavior. You're seeing the failure of the parenting that the child is seeing. You're seeing the child reacting because of its feeling of being scared or unsafe or confused. That's what we need to understand. So, to take this forward, one of the first anchors we need to understand is a child has poor cognitive maturity. It cannot follow multiple instructions, it cannot process multiple emotions, etc. And and some of these trends are slightly different in the age group of toddlers and young children up until the age of 5 to 6. The patterns will be slightly different in 6 to 10. The patterns will be again different in the age group of 10 to 14, 14 to 17, etc. Even young adults in the age group of 20 to 25 have their own patterns. In all of these times, you have to understand the age appropriate maturity that a child must display. And that's where you need to work with the child. Like with a child who's about 6 years, you may want to teach the child what is safe and unsafe in its environment itself, physical environment, like where to walk, what to look at, what not to. Whereas what you will need to do with a teenager, maybe teach the concept of safety in the social settings. So those are different things that you will need to work with the child to understand. Again, age appropriate parenting. Young minds cannot assess risks, social cues, and long term consequences in the environment they are. So, for younger children, like I said, it's the immediate physical environment. For slightly older children, it is physical and the social environment both put together. So, they say yes or no, or the way they react very impulsively. It's out of their immaturity that they're doing most of the times rather than well thought out structures. Whereas we as elders have this demandingness of children that children must follow. How will they? Their brain is not structured like that. Their ability to process things is not structured like that. Their ability to process emotions is not structured like that. So what you're seeing is immaturity, not disobedience from them. That's why you need to help them understand priority, help them understand time, help them understand emotional complexity. And it takes years. And in spite of that, every 3 to 4 years, you will have to do this again and in different ways. Because as the child's life and life scenarios change, from a toddler to a small, to a smaller child, to a preteen, to a teenager, to a young adult, the construct is changing of its life, and you'll have to work with the child to help the child adapt to that and adopt the right behaviors. So work in an age appropriate way to teach safe versus unsafe. Work in an age appropriate way to understand helpful versus not helpful. Work in an age appropriate way to look at what is respectful versus disrespectful. Work with an age appropriate way of what should be the right stimuli and wrong stimuli. Give them examples of their age pertaining to them, and please don't condemn them by giving examples which belong to your era. You need examples of their era, where they are today, and also do not condemn them by comparing them. Don't demean their life by comparing them to unrealistic things. They will become very confused, right? And you have to keep reinforcing this again and again, because children have to learn how to make these decisions. And it takes, like I said, 14, 15 years to work through all this, because every 3 to 4 years the scenario of the child's life is changing significantly. An extension of mental and cognitive maturity is the emotional immaturity that they have. Again, they don't have the ability to process emotions. So from fear to anxiety, etc., and they will react differently. Either they will be over attached to you, or they will avoid you. Either they will be dependent on you or hide things from you. And this is very natural for children to do when they feel unsafe. It's very natural. They are not defying you. They are just finding it difficult to cope with those emotions. And at a certain age, especially in the 8 to 14 period, they are also dealing with so many chemical and physical changes in their body that it's horrendous for them in that age. Even something as simple as their own body odor can bother them so much. And it may be the other way around. They just don't notice that also. And that's how their brain is structured. So their emotional dysregulations are going to show up as that over attachment or avoidance, whichever way. Sometimes they will be impulsive, sometimes they will be unintentional, sometimes they'll be very intentional. All of that will happen. So you will have to talk to them about emotions. What are emotions? What kind of emotions are there? How do I identify them? How do I deal with each of these emotions? And keep doing that. And every time you speak to them, and you speak to them respectfully and purposefully, they will absorb some parts of it, not all of it. That's why you need to keep going back, look at the window of opportunity, and build their tolerance slowly and safely. You know what? You'll also have to build your own tolerance slowly and safely, but you may not have time. So you'll have to do it swiftly and safely. So parenting, and I keep saying, is also about learning parenting and changing yourself as much as it is parenting your child. Now, because of their emotional immaturity and then the cognitive immaturity or mental immaturity, what can also happen is certain behaviors which we tend to call as drama triangle. And this is a beautiful construct created by Stephen Kaufman and the work that he did on emotional and intellectual behaviors that we have in our surroundings. It's a construct from transactional analysis where we say that because of the way we are feeling on the inside of us, we may tend to take up either a victim role or a prosecutor role or a rescuer role. And we've all seen children who are overly cribbing, overly complaining, crying, and all of that. And this is where their victim behavior is. Or we have seen children who are aggressive, who are constantly yelling, shouting, screaming, putting and asserting themselves, bullying others. That's a prosecutor behavior. Or we have seen children constantly over caring for their siblings, over caring for you, over caring for their friends. They really don't care for themselves. That's the rescuer child. And we as adults also tend to get into the victim, prosecutor, or rescuer child. And you know what? Once you are in that place, you'll just keep on circulating. Because someone who's a rescuer today can be tomorrow's prosecutor of somebody that they see doing wrong. Somebody who's a victim today can be tomorrow's rescuer because they identify with somebody's pain. And your child is going through all of these. So if you find your child in any one of these, again, it's important for you to help them understand how they need to look at life. Again, the emotional and social maturity and intellectual maturity comes in here. So you'll have to teach them age-appropriate behaviors for their own self and for others. And age-appropriate behaviors, again, are related to skills of understanding their own life and responding to the life outside them, all of that. So you'll have to work with your child to be a problem solver and not be a victim, or be a respectful asserter instead of being a prosecutor, or a self-caring helper instead of being a rescuer. And that is going to take some amount of work on your part. And don't depend on school counselors and teachers to do this. And definitely don't ignore this. Otherwise, they're going to learn some very bad habits from their friends. Again, those are going to be friends who have similar complaints of life, and you can never know what behaviors they pick up. And this is exactly where they lose their control on life. In fact, if you as parent are not paying attention to the child in the age group of about 8 to 25, you are literally ignoring the child's future from 25 to 50. And that's the reality of parenting that we will have to live with. So buck up and take charge. Now, on the other side, what's also happening is that the way we parent has its own consequence. The way our home environment is, the way the society is, or where the structure around them, teachers, etc. are. So what happens is children also can make some very early script decisions, which means how will my life play out? Like I have to be a good boy or girl. I have to always listen to elders, or I have to rebel only then others will listen to me, or I must only listen and not talk, or I have to question everything, or my feelings don't matter, or others' feelings don't matter. The decisions that we could make in our life could be any. And these are often decisions or script decisions which will govern the way our personality itself becomes. So while emotional and mental immaturity are showing up in small everyday transactions, our script decisions are literally how, it's like the script of a play or a script of a movie. How would my life turn out to be? If a child feels that I'm a failure at everything, that can become their life script. Or I am no good at all, it becomes their life script. And where does this come from? These come from either the kind of injunctions that we place on our children or the trauma that they have experienced. Injunctions are like messages or instructions we give our children. Like teachers may say, shut up and be quiet and don't do anything. And you will say, don't talk loudly, don't sit like this, don't be like this, don't speak up, your feelings don't matter. And these injunctions can go and have a big hurting impact. And when a child hears them again and again and again, it can make early script decisions saying, I am no good, I don't have to be like this, I have to be like this, I have to be a people pleaser, I have to be a rebel, all of that. Or this could also happen because of trauma that they have experienced, because of bullying, beating, being compared, being judged by their parents and others around them. So watch out. What messages are you giving your child? Because once a child receives a certain message and it's a negative message and it keeps hitting again and again, or if it's a certain positive message which is unrealistic, like you are the best, you are wonderful, you are better than everybody else. When you say these things, the child's nervous system is getting attuned to those messages. Its brain is getting attuned to those messages. And its entire sensory, motor, psychological construct, sociological construct of behavior is going to get attuned to these script decisions of early on. So if a child feels that I deserve, then it is going to come out entitled. There is no point of trying to fight that feeling of entitlement later on in life, because it is anchored somewhere in the childhood and it will be very difficult for that child to change. Can it change? Yes, but it takes a lot of work. So while on one side, the child's emotional and intellectual maturity is something that you as a parent needs to work on, you also need to be very careful of what's the message that the child is receiving. And if there are repeat negative messages or unrealistic positive messages, those could be leading to certain script decisions. And if there are some script decisions which you as a parent carry or grandparents carry or are there in the family, like, some families have scripts of aggression, some have scripts of debt, then the child could also be picking up these. So be careful, talk to a counselor if you have some of these issues that you need to address. But either which way, if you don't work with these, the child is not going to learn to respect boundaries, respect rules, respect structures. So to close this, remember, a child learns boundaries from how we treat them as adults. Good parenting is not just about enforcing roles. It's about creating the right structures of time, discipline, placing, managing the environment, behaviors, etc. So create healthy structures for your child. You have to make the child boundary aware by teaching it the safe, unsafe, respectful, disrespectful, age appropriate behaviors, age appropriate responsibilities. They have to learn the limits. They have to learn to understand that what can be harsh if they do that, what can be harsh to them if they do that. They have to learn what is the appropriate fear, what is appropriate respect. They have to learn how to build things slowly, patiently, stay at things. Ultimately, you have to remember you have to raise a child who respects boundaries not out of fear or punishment, but out of clarity, dignity, and self worth. Clarity of life and understanding life, dignity of knowing who I am and who I can and I need to become, and self worth of what am I really good at and playing to my strengths and improving my weakness. Hope you're able to work with your child. And this is an intricate and complicated subject. So if you need to get help, do get help. But wish you the very best in bringing up your child and ensuring a great future of your child. A child with good boundaries, healthy adherence to rules, and healthy adherence to structures in life. These are important for your child's success.